I have been joined by Richard Ahiagbah, who is the Deputy Director of Communications for NPP. Good morning, Richard.
Good morning, Dzifa.
How are you?
Quite okay.
Good.
How about yourself?
I'm okay.
Are you sure?
I'm perfectly fine.
You look very okay.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us.
It's a pleasure.
Okay. I also have with me Eric Edem Agbana, who's the Deputy National Youth Organizer of the NDC. Good morning.
Dzifa, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Blessed.
I want to say it's an all-Ewe affair, but I'm not going to do that. Okay, we'll start with our first
And Richard
story.
is my brother in a way.
I suspect you just did, huh?
What did I
You
do?
just did already.
A nice
What
way
did
of
you
saying
do?
it.
I have to learn your trade,
What trade?
the work you do.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why? How so?
You want to
Because-
quit politics?
No, there's a lot of skills in there that I can use. Because there's a lot of things you say without saying them.
Yeah. Is that a compliment?
It's a compliment.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to our first story. We graced October with a lot of tariffs, unfortunately. So water prices are going to go up, or they've gone up already. Electricity has gone up, and of course, we are paying 9% more for communication. Now, the Vice President is speaking, and he's saying NDC increased electricity tariffs by 166%. I'm reading from citynewsroom.com. So it says here, Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia has taken a swipe at the opposition National Democratic Congress for criticizing government over recent increments in utility tariffs. Dr. Bawumia said the marginal increments cannot be compared to the over 100% increment announced under NDC. So, of course, government has come under intense fire following the announcement by PURC of a 5.94% increase in electricity tariffs and 2.22% increase in the price of water. And if you all remember, we paid more for water and electricity in July, and now October 1st, we had to also pay more. So I'm going to quote the Vice President briefly. He says, recently, which is yesterday, you would have heard that the PURC has increased electricity tariff by 5.06%, and it is very important for us to have some perspective on this because electricity has a bearing on the cost of doing business. And so we have to be having our eyes on it that we do not overburden businesses. What the situation was before we came into office in 2010, the average increase in electricity was 89%. 2011 was 10%. 2013 was 78%. 2014 was 28.3%. 2015 was 59.2%. So he goes on to say that between 2013 and 2016, just the last 4 years of the NDC government, the cumulative increase in electricity tariff was 166%. So we are nowhere near what we experienced under NDC. So, Edem, I'll give you a chance to respond to this because I know Richard would want to react to your submission. So what are your thoughts on the Vice President saying that, yes, tariffs have gone up, but it cannot be compared to the 166% increase we experienced under NDC?
Well, Dzifa, good morning to you and to our cherished viewers across the world. It's always great to be on your channel. And this morning is also a very special morning for me. The issue of electricity tariff and its increment and the comparison between what the NDC did or did not do and what the NPP is doing, I think that for me, I get very, very disappointed when the Vice President, the head of the economic management team, decides to reduce the discourse to a comparison between what the figures were under the NDC and what the figures are under him, when indeed we should be looking at what the impact or the implications of some of these increases on the ordinary Ghanaian. Again, You look at the vice president who, when in opposition, criticized every tariff increment under the NDC government and said he had a better plan. And his better plan was that given the opportunity, they were going to reduce it. And they made very, very, very definite statement. It wasn't even about we'll study the economy to see whether there are possibilities of reduction and all of that. They said, they made statements to the effect that they were not going to increase electricity tariffs and all of that, regardless of the challenges that we were facing at the time that we saw some of those increments and all that, and taking into consideration the economic conditions. They made statements to the effect that for them, increasing tax was such an obnoxious thing that it's something they wouldn't even get so close to. So if today, the NDC standard that you criticize as incompetent is the standard that you are aiming at and you want to use that to judge yourself, it tells you your own level of competence. Because if you are performing, you are doing something, okay, and I'm saying that the way and manner in which you are moderating this show, I don't like it. It's so incompetent of you. And then when you give me the opportunity to sit in your chair and somebody else is criticizing me, I want to compare what I am doing to what you were doing that I thought was not the ideal standard. It tells me that myself, I have lost track of even my direction, because if I have my direction, it's supposed to be the words that I uttered before I got the position. So for me, the vice president bringing this comparison and all of that, excuse me to say, he was just being petty. What are the pertinent issues that we ought to be looking at? We have to be looking at the fact that we entered into the month of October with 10% increment in transport fares. Is that not the case? How is that? What is the implication of that? How is that affecting the business of the ordinary Ghanaian? You entered into the same October with a 50% increment in communication service tax. And you see, with this communication service, the communication service tax, when they are calculating, the NPP has introduced a very mischievous way of calculating it to create an impression that it is a 3% increment. If you have a tax that is 6%, and the 6% component is increased to 9%, it is not, we are not looking at the value. We are looking at a certain percentage increment. So 3% increment on a 6% is what? It's a 50%. So you increase tax 6% to 9% on communication service. So when you and I recharge our airtime, you don't get the value that you ought to get or you are paying for. That is what we are supposed to be talking about. How is that? We are paying 9%. Cumulatively, you are paying 9%. So from 6% to 9%.
Okay.
So you ought to be looking at that. How is it affecting the business of the ordinary Ghanaian? And these are the things that you criticize.
But that's meant to improve the service within that sector, right?
No, ESLA. When the NDC government realized that the energy sector were facing serious crisis, we decided to introduce the ESLA. They criticize it as insensitive and we are not being innovative, that the NDC doesn't know what we are doing, John Mahama is incompetent at handling the economy and all of those things. Today, they promised at the time that when they have the opportunity, they will even scrap the ESLA. What have they done? They have not only maintained ESLA, but in addition, they increased the component of ESLA. So today, the transport fares or the fuel price hikes that you see is because of some of the components that were increased, including ESLA. So my thinking is that the president himself has admitted that there's hardship in this country. And he said, look, things are hard. Everybody is complaining. It's not just a matter of the NDC or the NPP. My worry when it comes to some of these things is that we are getting to a point, and I think I made this point on your show last week, that we are getting to a point where the citizenry will not be taken as serious as politicians.
But we have we've embarked on a lot of projects.
It is
1D1F, free SHS. How are we supposed to fund all these projects?
Under the NDC, we didn't see projects.
Well,
we saw schools
according
being
to
built.
the vice president, we had to pay 166% more for electricity.
So you see, my point is that...
Wouldn't you agree that we've come a long way if we're just paying under 20% versus 166%?
No, my point is that you say that a certain increment constitutes an insensitivity and was bringing to Ghanaians unbearable hardship.
Yes, but Edem, can you compare 166%
no, you see,
to just
when
about 17%
when you're calculating that kind of percentage increment in terms of taxes over a period of time. Unfortunately for us, I mean, the vice president is an economist, but the way and manner in which he does his calculations on some of these things sometimes is very, very problematic.
Okay.
Problematic in the sense that...
Provide clarity for us.
Yes, problematic in the sense that when you're talking about tax increments, you don't just look at over the period what the figures are. Because, for example, you have a situation where if you increase today from, say, 10 cedis, you increase a certain tax from 10 cedis to 50 cedis. The next minute, when you have a 2% increment, when you have a 2% increment, the 2% will not be added to your 80% increment that you had the other time, let's say from 10 to 50.
But you just did that with the communication tax where you said it's gone up by 50% because we added
it's not
the 3% to the 9%.
It's not by period. We are only looking at one tax component which increased from 6% in the budget
to 9%.
To 9%.
Okay.
That is what we're looking at.
Okay.
But we're looking at, so for example, when the vice president said that taxes have been increased by over 166% over a four-year period, you ask yourself a number of questions. One, at 2013, at the time that they saw those increments, what was even the minimum wage? What was the rate of inflation? All these are economic indices that you ought to look at before. There's no government in the history of this country where just at a go taxes were increased by over 100%. So you can't look at it and say NDC increased taxes by 166% and all that.
Okay.
You don't do the calculation that way. You ought to look at the promises that you made. You said you were going to reduce the taxes.
If we're looking at helping Ghanaians be better, develop, grow, if you're a business owner and you have to pay within a span of 4 years 166% more, right? And you get into another government and you're paying just 17% more, wouldn't you say that we've still improved, even if you're not using the 166 as the standard for what you should be paying?
No, you have not improved, because this is the point. Dzifa, when you have let's even assume that the 166%
is accurate.
It's accurate. Let's assume that it's accurate. So let's say you have 100 cedis tax. By 166%, it means that tax would have increased to 266. Is that not accurate?
Yeah.
Is that not correct? Now, so this time around, when you are doing a 17% increment, the 17% is on the 200.
Oh no, they decreased tariffs when they came into power.
Every government decreases at the time.
So that means we're not starting with the 166% because they decreased it when they
decreased it. So the calculation he did was that after the decrease, he had done an aggregate increment of 17%, which means that calculation of 17% included the decrements that they brought the first time that they came into office.
Okay.
So you get it. So the 17% he's talking about is on the aggregate 100, and so it will now be calculated on the 266. So you see, 17% of 266 will be greater than the 17% of 100. So you cannot just take these figures that way and then you think that you're doing the people of Ghana any service. And I'm saying that we are getting to a point where President Akufo-Addo and his vice, Dr. Bawumia, are making Ghanaians lose confidence in us politicians. In fact, when you look at tweets and statements that the vice president made when in opposition, today he said that he knew what the money was, that given the opportunity, he wouldn't even borrow. Given the opportunity, you don't need to increase taxes and all of that. You made a point that, yes, we are seeing developmental projects, or the country needs to develop, we need to raise revenue and all of these things. No proper thinking is going into the introduction of these new taxes. And a typical example is the one that they have scrapped, which is the luxury vehicle tax.
Okay, thank you very much. I need you to wrap up for us.
We asked that on what grounds did you do that?
Okay.
We challenged them that you are not even going to meet the target. But they said, look, we were going to do it. They did it. And so now they have brought the taxes back to the ordinary Ghanaian to suffer. So I think that we ought to get to the point where politicians will be consistent with the things that they say. Okay,
thank you very much. Richard, I'll come to you. So in your manifesto, you said that we were going to go from taxation to production.
Yes.
Then you come out and release a press release from PURC, that's the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, saying that the reasons why Ghanaians are going to pay 5.94% more on electricity and 2.22% more on water is because Ghana to CD, dollar to CD rates, inflation, cost of crude oil, all these things that we know we were going to face. shouldn't we had at least found ways to generate revenue internally, perhaps if we had focused on production, so that the Ghanaian public won't have to bear the cost of all these things?
Yeah, Dzifa, good morning again to yourself, to your viewers, and to my brother. There's a lot of things I want to say, but you asked me a specific question, so let me focus on that. What you just said, moving from taxation to production won't address that issue. The only thing you're saying is
How
that
so?
Because those are utility
Let's take
issues.
a look at the currency issue, for instance, cedi to dollar rate.
Yes.
If we were not so dependent on imports, wouldn't we have had a way of addressing that issue? If we had more local businesses manufacturing, more Ghanaians buying from local businesses, if we didn't have such a high demand for the dollar, would we have an issue with cedi to dollar rate?
Yeah, so I'll answer that question. So the point I'm making is that the basis for increasing that, the basis is cost of production of the utility companies, water and electricity. So they are essential needs that goes into producing power and water. That is what is factored to arrive at that. So, so that moving production and all of that couldn't directly have solved that problem. Of course, will have implication in terms of what you're saying in the stability of the currency and things of that nature. So, let's understand.
The currency is stated as one of the issues.
And I'm
actually
saying
the first point.
I'm saying that
I'm pointing out to you.
Yes.
And I'm asking, is there a correlation between prioritizing production so that you don't have such a high demand on the dollar, so we don't have to now add that as one of the factors that we have to pay more for electricity and water in this country? And I would appreciate if you can answer that question.
Yes, and I did answer the question. What I'm trying to say is that it has implication, but not a direct. That would not be why you cannot increase it.
Okay.
You understand? Because assuming you've done everything perfectly, there are things that you cannot control.
Okay.
Okay, so you still will have increased tariffs whether or not your currency is stable.
Okay.
Now, the question is the degree and the extent. And we're focusing on the sensitivity to the market and what the market can bear. And that's where the difference shows. Okay. And when you have my brother, who is very, very articulate, get lost in trying to explain the same thing, you can understand the default position of the NDC, saying that if you are in doubt, castigate and blame the vice president. What we're trying to do here is simple. There are some essential increments that may come, okay, regardless of how well you control the environment. And when we came in, there was a reduction. So if you look at what we have done since 2017, there's a net reduction in actual fact. That is not to say that it's okay. We can do more. If government is in a position to subsidize, to be able to absorb some of these things, it is good. But going forward, we need to embrace the reality and what has happened to say that this is still a better option for Ghana. Now, he was talking about the economic and everything else. If you look at how far we have come and comparing yourself and another person who thinks it can do a better job and getting lost, look at where we have come from. We come from an economy that was shrinking fast, 3.6. Sometimes some of the numbers when you look is 3.4 GDP. We've elevated that. 2017, we got to about 8.1. Right now, we're sitting somewhere about 6.3. We are projected to be the fastest growing economy in the world by IMF. So we are at a different level where the economy is expanding. So some of these shocks can be absorbed much better now than it was when you increase at a certain percentage. So we are moving forward. We still have to do more. We have not arrived yet, far from that. But then we are moving in a direction that they couldn't have taken us. And that's the conversation we must have. And I think that we should appreciate some honesty in that to say, okay, well, we didn't do so. But when we are coming out, I keep giving the NDC the opportunity to engage us with fresh ideas, to say, look, we faltered. Or maybe we failed or we didn't do well and then we got voted out. Now we're coming, this is our reloaded version of economic policy. This is what we are bringing going forward to solve A, B, C, D problem. They are not doing that. They are going back to argue about things and say, oh, you called us incompetent. I am somehow saying the one way NDC can become relevant, apart from showing us ideas, is to just accept that, yes, indeed, we were incompetent. Because every time they throw that in our face and you called us incompetent. But you see, the numbers show that indeed what was happening was not good enough. Not that what is happening here is perfect, but it's much, much better than what we saw under
But
you.
is that
So
the
moving
standard
forward,
you've set for yourself? I'll let you answer that, but we have to go for a quick break and then you'll continue. So don't lose that thought. Thank you so much for staying with us. I still have with me Eric Edem Agbana, who is the Deputy National Youth Organizer of the NDC, and Richard Ahiagbah, who is the Deputy Director of Communications for NPP. We are discussing electricity tariffs increase. The Vice President is saying that we are nowhere near what the NDC had us go through with 166% increase in electricity tariffs. Do not go anywhere. We will be right back. Welcome back. This is Breakfast Daily on City TV. Thank you so much for staying with us. And of course, as always, if you want us to hear from you, use the hashtag Breakfast Daily and the WhatsApp line 0550-585-832, and I'll be sure to read them out loud for our guests. I still have with me Eric Edem Agbana and Richard Ahiagbah. And Richard was just finishing his point.
you know, you ask if that was a standard we have set.
Yes.
You know, we have a government currently in motion. So we are not at a terminal point where we will say this is what we are comparing to. We are in a process. So at every moment in time, when the call for analysis and comparison, we are able to do that consistent with where we are and what we have achieved. So we have not set any standard. Our goal is to do exceeding the target we've set ourselves. So if you look at the performance of this government, we have never at any point said we have arrived, okay? Our commitment is to reach out there, and I'm a student of your network, because the kind of conversations you have on your network is provoking, is inspiring, is pushing us to do more as a people. And as Ghanaians, not only because we're in government, but we as a people must get to the point where we are challenging ourselves to say it is our country and we want to do much more to build it. That mindset is what this government is approaching its mandate with, to ensure that whatever it is we have to do to develop this country, we must do it. And that's how come sometimes you will see certain things go messy, is because we are willing to undo, you know, what appears to be okay, and go underneath there and see what is it that we must do to sustainably build it so it is designed to last, not for today, but for long term. Okay. So we are doing the hard work of doing development the right way. And that's what we have to be committed to. And that's the standard we're ultimately going to commit ourselves to. So we invite the NDC to engage. Dzifa, it is painful for me. I am always willing to engage the NDC to say that this is our idea. You have increased so-and-so by 5.5%. We think that it is not okay because we have ABCD ideas to reduce it by 2%. Then we can interrogate that idea. But this idea, when the fact is stated, and instead of showing a counter idea, you're just arguing with the fact, which is an impossibility to achieve because you just wind yourself up and you realize exposed. We need to be consistent. We need to try to show ideas, because we cannot build this country just by talking. Okay. We need to talk with Richard, ideas, and those ideas are what the NDC is lacking very clearly.
Okay, but Ghanaians unfortunately had to wake up to October 1st. Increase in tariffs in communication, increase in tariffs in water, increase in tariffs in electricity. We voted for change. Yes. We didn't vote for a modification of what we had. If we wanted it modified, we would have kept those old guys in power. Yeah. So if our vice president is addressing us, shouldn't it be centered on how to ensure we won't suffer any longer? These are the steps we're taking, as opposed to pointing out to the other guys and saying, well, this is what they did, so at least we are better off than we were under them. Shouldn't we have like a brand new clean slate, because you promised us change? You didn't promise us a modification of what we had. Yeah.
But even if you are seeking a clean slate, you still have a slate. You understand? So you have something to which you must compare. Because if you have a clean slate and you don't have anything to compare with, you might just be surprised that what you have to be a clean slate is really not a clean slate. Is that
the value Ghanaians need?
No, wait. I'm trying to let
our leaders, as far as us paying more.
Dzifa, what I'm trying to establish for you is that there is always something you must compare to. Even yourself. If you evaluate yourself, you compare yourself to your better self.
I don't compare myself to my...
No, I'm saying to your better self.
So are you saying your opponents are your better version?
No. See, if we increase tariffs, which we have established, or I have established for you, that as far as production is concerned, there are instances where they have to increase tariffs. Okay, so you have to understand the increment, appreciate the increment now, looking at what other option could have been. And that other option could have been a 166% increment. Vis-a-vis.
The other option would have been cleaning up the sector, actually, like all the issues that
okay, let me answer this.
is experiencing.
That. Yeah.
That could have been another option so that we don't always have to transfer the expense of. So if we have an issue with cost of production and there are some loopholes within that supply chain, the other option would be fixing those loopholes so that every little cost is not passed onto the customer, onto the taxpayer. Isn't that a better option than say, okay, these other guys would have also gone to taxing you, so we are taxing you less, so that's it?
But see, that's a very interesting conversation because, you know, the last time I was in a briefing with PURC, the standard, the expectation they have for the companies have been stiffened up to the extent that their recovery rate and their standard of fighting waste in their system have been tightened. So now they are able to be more efficient.
But the last time I was in a meeting with PURC as well, they mentioned a lot of waste still in that supply chain.
Absolutely.
That's costing us money that we shouldn't be paying if we're able to fix those issues.
Absolutely.
So why aren't we focusing on that as opposed to pointing out to the other guys who had us pay?
There are two streams of conversation you are introducing.
I am.
The first view is the increment, which has to do with what we have done and comparing to what was. And then, because you have to do that because the person who increases the 166% is the person pointing finger, you have increased 5%. What would you do?
What about the Ghanaians who are complaining?
Allow me.
What about the Ghanaians who are complaining?
I'll get there.
Shouldn't we instead address their concerns?
We will address that.
So why are we focusing on what the other guy is saying?
You have to focus on the other guy because he's talking to the same people you want to talk to.
Okay.
So we need to be able to address that to create context.
Please wrap up for us.
So the context, what we're creating is that look at 5.5% vis-a-vis 166%.
Okay.
Clear. Okay. All right. So now we'll move on to other ways we can ensure that maybe tomorrow it is not 5.5%, but it's 5.1 or is 1% or even no percent at all. And that's where you come in with your conversation to do with efficiency standards. We must do that also. I invite you to that conversation. Let's hold them to strict standard. Make sure your inefficiencies are not being transferred to consumers. We must do that every time. But then, of course, the context in which we are communicating, that's why we need to make that backdrop for people to see this is how far we have come, and it's very important.
Thank you very much, Richard, for that. Now we'll move on to our second story, and it says Ghana cannot pay back $2 billion Sino Hydro loan, and that's coming from ASEP. So I'm reading from citynewsroom.com, and it says here, the Africa Center for Energy Policy has cast doubt about the country's ability to honor its commitments regarding the $2 billion barter agreement with China if it relies solely on revenue from the proposed integrated aluminum industry. So I'm going to quote the executive director of ASEP, Ben Boache, and he says that with the 5 million tons of bauxite expected to be mined and about 2,500,000 tons of alumina to be extracted, Ghana stands to gain only 125,000 of alumina, which, when traded, will give the country 48 million, an amount woefully inadequate to meet the $260 million per year commitment Ghana made to the Sino Hydro deal. So I'm just going to quote it briefly. We say we're going to produce 5 million tons of bauxite, and the peaks of it can only give you about 2.5 million tons of alumina, assuming that a company will mine and refine and give you alumina benefits. What Ghana will get from it is about 125,000 tons of alumina. If you trade it on the market, what Ghana is going to get is about 48 million. What Ghana is going to get, again, is about 40, and our commitment is actually $260 million. So how do we go from 48 million to 260 million that will help us pay off this $2 billion that we need to pay if we commit to $260 million every year. So, Richard, I'll give you a chance to react to this analysis by the African Center for Energy Policy. They're saying we are not going to be able to pay back the loan at this rate.
Dzifa, I'm not sure where they're getting their numbers from to do this analysis. From what I hear, I think there's a numbers government put out. And I'm not sure that government will be committed to something it knows it cannot fulfill. And so that for me, I'm not, unless it comes out again to say something, I'm not following.
They are calculating the amount of bauxite we are going to produce and the monies we will make from that, and saying that the 48 million that we will get from the bauxite a year does not match to the $26 million projection we've made to help us pay.
Is it
the
$260 million?
Yes, $260
is a commitment
million
per year.
Per year.
Okay.
And right now, we'll be able to meet just $48 million, according to their analysis.
Okay. He needs to probably come and tell us something, because really I don't follow. We had a briefing not too long ago on the matter related to that. I don't have any understanding of what he is saying. I agree that they are doing some analysis to come up with some conclusion, but I don't know how official that number is. But one thing I think he's forgetting, Dzifa, is that this whole bauxite deal, bauxite for $2 billion deal that we've had with the barter agreement with Sinohydro, the Chinese people, revolves around a lot of things. And clearly, he's missing a big chunk of what goes into that. And I don't know where he saw that number, 260 million commitment of annual payment. You know, we have created an industry, okay, to process the bauxite into alumina, for which we're going to exchange
the final
with the Chinese. And then also that industry, the Integrated Aluminium Development Corporation. Now, their mandate is to build a whole complete industry that is designed not only to focus on meeting the requirement under this Sinohydro deal, but to create industry and production that will actually empower not only the payment of this, but create a base for economic development. So he's missing a big picture when he's just doing some analysis, which does not even take into account what capacity we're going to build, what legacy that will leave for us, and that the implication of that industry being created will have on our economy. So I think that he needs to go and do, or they need to actually present a proper picture which takes into account all government efforts directed at this and the creation of an industry that will have the capacity in excess of producing much more than that 260 million is
you
talking
do know
about.
this wouldn't be the first time. Let's assume that their calculations are correct. This won't be the first time that we've, as a people, have projected that we'll make revenue from a project and ended up in debt. Right? So even our very first Prime Minister, Kwame Nkrumah, fell victim to this, where he went under some deal. Same thing with bauxite. But we ended up paying the price for it. So isn't there some merit to the calculations they are making, that, okay, your projection is another thing, the reality is a completely different thing. And if you're not able to meet it, we'll be in debt, and the future generation will have to pay for it.
Well, I hear you on that, but also, Dzifa, it's not going to be the first time somebody has been right all the time and is wrong. You understand? So the point I am making is that he needs to take the complete picture. We're talking about an industry that he didn't factor into his calculation.
So you think it's wrong?
Oh yes. So because if I'm actually at a loss based on his calculation to say that we're paying in cash as opposed to a trading with
No, he's
alumina.
just looking at the value, not necessarily paying
Well,
in
you
cash.
see, and that's a problem. And he did take into account,
yeah.
So you see, that's conflicting the whole thing for me, because if we're going to be paying in alumina,
you still have to put a value to the product.
Yeah, we have to, yes, but then to the extent that he's using that calculation is using, I'm not sure what base price is using per the agreement that we have with them. The price we're going to be selling, is it on prevailing market price, or we have an agreed price at which we're going to be trading this to them? So the whole picture is not clear, and I'm saying that with that inclarity there, vis-a-vis the industry that is actually supposed to spearhead this whole project, is missing a large chunk of the picture, and they need to come back.
But he broke it down to say we will be producing 5 million tons.
That is a
bauxite.
target.
That one
yeah.
was clear. That was clear.
Yeah, that's.
And then out of that, you will get 2.5 million tons of alumina from that bauxite. Is that clear?
I think
well?
that is an adjustment he made that I don't understand.
Okay,
I don't see the
fine.
basis for
Okay,
his
for
adjustment
that.
from
Okay.
5,000 to
5 million
5 million to
bauxite,
1. Yeah.
and then you get 2.5 million tons of alumina.
Yeah, so cut by half. I don't know how he makes the
Okay,
adjustment
that's
for
fine.
that.
Perfect. I see you are calculating. So are you preparing for your 1C or what?
Yeah, I'm just putting some
Okay,
figures.
that's okay.
To the issue. I think that the
So
first thing,
Eric, Richard doesn't
yes,
agree with ASAP
well,
on their
obviously,
calculation.
obviously, I'm not surprised at this position. But how did we even get here? It's important for us to acknowledge the fact that this whole Sino-Hydro deal and the commentary, the narrative that was attached to it by the government, led by the president and the vice president and their ministers of state and communicators like Richard.
just the government. It's okay.
I mean, it's important to rope in because it's not an appointee. So sometimes.
Okay,
you would
let's
want to,
continue,
run away
please.
from it. Dzifa, we were in this country when the minority, led by the Honorable Atu Forsen, our ranking member on finance, said the Sino-Hydro deal was a loan. This was vehemently rejected by the government, and they told us that it was a banter. So today, ASAP is talking about our inability to pay a 2 billion Sino-Hydro loan. So the first question I want
Even
to
if
ask.
it's a barter, you're still trading something for something. So
Good.
let's not confuse
But,
the two.
yeah.
You can still have a barter and still be
but we
deficient
classified
in
it that. We classified it that if you look at the entire deal, this was simply a loan that you are taking.
But what does that have to do
But
with
they
what
told us
ASAP
that,
is saying?
okay, so the reason why, so today, why is ASAP saying that? ASAP is not saying that government is unable to pay for the banter. ASAP is talking about a loan.
The barter.
Because at the end of the day, when you look at the arrangement, it is akin to taking a loan of 2 billion.
But Eric,
and you see why it is important?
Respectfully, if I'm trading
the,
my old model Samsung phone
yes,
for your new iPhone, and Richard says the value is not the same. It's still a barter. We're still trading
the question
products,
is,
but mine has a lesser value than yours.
So there's a reason why when you're bringing a phone that has a higher value than mine, there's always an arrangement for me to pay something or pay the difference in cash.
It's still a barter. It's still a barter agreement.
So
it's not a loan. Respectfully, that's not a loan. It's still a barter.
We have to do the
because you're focusing on the value of the things you are trading.
We have to do the classification well because we must first agree that this 2 billion is going to add up to the ballooning public debt. It will add up to the public debt stock.
The barter will add to the public debt stock.
So you see, when you say barter, though here is the case. So you have gone for 2 billion.
You haven't gone for 2 billion. You are
trading.
For 2
billion.
If you are trading for 2 billion, Richard.
Okay,
boss.
Richard, you are trading for 2 billion.
I told you I want to learn.
And you needed an extra 2.5 billion, which is even higher than the value that you are trading with, to make an investment that will pay off that.
Okay.
So where are you going to get a 2.5 billion from?
Okay.
You get it?
I get it.
So this is the point. Let's just bring it very basic calculate because you are talking about banter. Richard drives a Mercedes Benz. You get it?
Assuming
he drives a Mercedes Benz.
Okay.
And I drive an old. I drive an old rickety Toyota Corolla.
Okay.
Now we want to do a banter.
Barter.
We want to do a barter with the cars, and then he has a problem with his car, so he needed to repair it. So he needed to make an investment, and the amount that he's investing in repairing that is even higher than the value of my car.
Okay.
That is the point that we have to start from. And ASAP is saying that you are going for an arrangement with the $2 billion.
Yes.
But with that 2 billion, before you are able to develop the resources that will really pay off this barter, you ought to make an injection of a 2.5 billion, which is higher than the arrangement of the 2 billion.
Okay.
So this is where we are starting from. Okay. And we must accept that it's again, you look at the whole Sino-Hydro deal, and you agree with me that they didn't even do a value for money audit, and we raised these issues in Parliament, and they rejected it. So today, why are we here? All the timelines and the deadlines that they have given with regards to the Sino-Hydro, they have missed it. Where is the money coming? When is even the money coming? I'm even surprised that today we are even discussing our ability to pay when even the money or the people haven't even come to start the work. And we agree. Recently, we were told that it is most likely that the Chinese are pulling off or taking us out of the deal. And he can confirm that.
Look.
Because all the timelines that you have given from July 2017 till now, what has happened to the Sino-Hydro deal?
Okay.
You missed every timeline. Every timeline that Dr. Bawumia announced that the Chinese are coming and we are doing this and we are doing that and this Tamale interchange and all the roads that they added as part of the benefit that will come with that agreement and all of that.
The value for money the minority asked for had to do with the road projects, not the entire Sino-Hydro deal.
It's part of it.
But we still have to make that clarification that it was tied to the road
So now
projects.
what has happened to the entire Sino-Hydro deal? The truth is that this arrangement is bad.
Okay.
And I think that the government should save Ghanaians and save themselves some shame and embarrassment by just bring it back to the table and have better discussion. There's nothing wrong for you. And it happened to us before. You remember when the NDC was in power, we entered into some agreement with regards to XTS housing deal, which never materialized. So there is nothing wrong for the government to come back to Ghanaians and say that we entered this deal still with the Chinese anyway, and we thought that it was going to bring us A, B, C, and D, but after, some time and further considerations, we have realized that the deal is not as it is or as we thought it was going to be. Okay. Then you pull off.
Okay.
What is this putting up a defense for this bad deal that Dr. Bawumia has
Thank you very much. We do have some messages that I want to read from our viewers. Of course I will. Don't worry about that. Abu Siddiq says, good morning, Dzifa and my brother Edem and Richard, my brothers. Living in Ghana under this difficult government is like living in a very uncomfortable place. By the way, why do we vote? We vote for a better living, not to be punished like the way the majority of Ghanaians are facing right now. When they collapsed our banks, they complain, they say free SHS. When exchange rates and oil prices keep rising, they say free SHS. When the majority of Ghanaians are starving, they say free SHS. Respectfully, Richard hasn't said anything about free SHS this morning, but thank you for that. Fusaini says, good morning, Dzifa, and your panelists. Dzifa, our vice president talks too much, and he should be serious because we are suffering, and we do not eat percentages, and it is not a percentage his government promised us. Okay, so
you should clarify that question for the whatever statement for your tester. That percentage translate into
yes,
money.
Our livelihood.
Yes.
So he's saying if you were going to pay 166% more, you won't
paying
have
much less.
Yes. So,
yes. So
is
that's
that enough? Clarity?
Yes. Thank you, Candace.
You're welcome.
You see, I don't understand. He wrote a lot of things, but he didn't say much.
I think he actually did say everything on his sheet.
No, nothing.
Should I pass it to you?
I see EIU on there. He didn't talk about it.
Look. Why are you looking from across the
because he's writing and you draw attention to it. But the point I am saying is this: this Sino-Hydro thing is a very genius arrangement.
Okay.
Now, if there are aspects of it that government is ongoing with the partners to try to flesh out, I think that is something we should encourage. Yeah. Now, nobody is defended this thing here on the platform. It's a Sino-Hydro on the platform. The only thing we're talking about is the SEP's calculation. Now, if you have done some research and you have a finding that suggests something, put it out, all of us read it. But the point I am
that's
saying,
exactly what he did.
I haven't read it yet, so maybe that is my.
But I just read it out.
Oh no, I'm saying the study. Yes, the full study is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
We don't see reports. It's just sketchy.
Yes.
Okay,
that's fine.
So
Please wrap up for
yes,
us.
I will. So the point I am trying to make right now is that this Sino-Hydro deal is not a loan. It's a barter agreement with them. We're going to pay in commodities to them, and he's putting figures on it. And my only difficulty is where the rate he's putting to arrive at those numbers. And the adjustment he's making from 5,000 metric ton, 5 million, 5 million to 2.5 million. How is he making? How is he making that cut to arrive at that, to make sure he's using 2.5 to calculate as opposed to 5 million to calculate?
I think that's a fair
submission.
submission.
Put it out for
so
us
our final story here: GWCL shuts down Teshi desalination plant again. So the Teshi desalination plant has been shut down again by the Ghana Water Company Limited, and of course it had to do with some excess chemicals necessitating the shutdown. So this isn't the first time the plant has been shut down. Last year it was shut down, but that has to do with some debt, and then this year we're shutting it down because of some chemicals. Touch on it briefly for us.
Yeah, I think I heard the chairman, Honorable Ahiagbah, yesterday on your network sometime talking about the reason for its shutdown. And just like himself, I'll also constrain myself from talking about it in any length because he talked about the reason being technical.
Yes.
And as a result, the communication department will put out.
But this is a project that cost us $126 million. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. And I think it's a BOT arrangement with them. Yes. So the primary responsibility we have as a government is to the people of this country. And if there is something coming out from that plant that has potential health implications on people, we must take the initial step, the money notwithstanding, to ensure that the people are protected first of all. And my comfort is in the management of Ghana Water being resolute in saying that we will err on the side of the people, to say that let's stop this, have people go in. From what I understand, they are going to try to fix this, the issue, and once successfully done, they may go back to work. And when that happens, I think Ghanaians will be the beneficiaries for it.
Thank you very much, Richard. Edem.
I think that the management of the Ghana Water Company Limited ought to be commended for the swift response in shutting down the plant, despite the difficulties that it may bring to some parts of Accra. The health of the people is of prime concern to all of us. And over the period, we know for a fact that the residents around Teshi have complained that due to the excess chemicals, water that is produced by this plant poses some health threats to them. And I mean, for months, they have been calling for the plant to be shut down and all of that. I would only urge that management will facilitate whatever maintenance work or
but shouldn't we have done our due diligence at them? Because
yes,
I mean, these people didn't have water for decades.
Yes.
If you're going to bring them water, the least you can do is ensure that it's quality water.
Yes, I think that generally as a country, we have a problem with our approach to providing solutions. Sometimes we assume that because the people want something, during the process, we just rush to try to solve it in any way possible. So without even looking at how sustainable some of these plants are, even the cost.
The former president can learn from.
No, I mean, it's not just a matter of the
it's a system thing.
It's a system thing.
Why do we rush to launch things though?
It's a systemic failure.
Because there's pressure.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Sometimes when you are in the seat, the pressure that the people give you, sometimes they will even tell you that regardless of how it is, we just want water. And then later when they start using and they realize that, well, it comes with some health.
But shouldn't it be a communication solution then to engage people?
I agree with you. That's why I said that it's a systemic failure, and we ought to be, this particular plant should be a lesson to all of us that, yes, you may be in a hurry to provide solution, but make sure that the solution is sustainable and does not pose further problems to the lives of the intended beneficiaries. So I think that, like Apenyo Makin said, we should rather work hard on solving the problem quickly and then reduce the chemical component of the production process so that residents who are using this water will not face any adverse health effect out of it. I think that it's fair. This is not a matter that should really engage a banter between the NDC and the MPP, because we are talking about livelihoods here and very, very basic. Dzifa.
Thank you very much for being neutral on this.
I'm not neutral.
You're provoking a different
And of
He's
course,
going to withdraw
Eric
everything he said.
Edem Agbana is the Deputy National Youth Organizer of the NDC, and Richard Ahiagbah is the Deputy Director of Communications for the NPP. Thank you so much for staying with us. Do not go anywhere. Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed this video.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel, The City Tube.
For exclusive Breakfast Daily content and other City TV programs.
Like, comment, and share with your friends.